News of the great battle spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Caltharian Empire had controlled space communications for thousands of years, but they could not stop the story from reaching every world they ruled. On the planet, Zephyr Prime, Governor Talrun received word that the Imperial fleet had been destroyed by unknown aliens. The Zephyrians had been slaves of the Empire for 800 years. Their blue-skinned people had never been allowed to build their own warships or govern themselves. "Is it true?" asked his aide, a young female named Silana. "Did someone really defeat the Imperial Navy?" "The reports say 300 Caltharian ships were destroyed," Talrun replied. "Only 50 alien vessels were involved in the battle." Silana could barely believe what she was hearing. The Caltharian military had seemed invincible for so long that most people had forgotten what freedom looked like. "What should we do, Governor?" Talrun had been waiting for this moment his entire life. "Send a message to all the outer colonies. Tell them that Zephyr Prime declares independence from the Caltharian Empire." Similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. The Mantari Collective announced they were resuming self-government. The Free Worlds Alliance reformed after being disbanded for 2 centuries. Species that had been conquered long ago began remembering their own cultures and languages. Emperor Zardan sat on his throne in the Imperial Palace, reading reports of rebellion from across his territory. In one day, he had lost the greatest fleet in galactic history and seen his empire begin to fall apart. "Your Majesty, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 different systems," his aide reported. "They want to negotiate with the human forces." The Emperor felt old and tired. His family had ruled the galaxy for over 100 generations. Now it was ending because of aliens nobody had ever heard of before. "Where is Admiral Zextai?" he asked. "Still returning to the capital system, Your Majesty. His flagship was badly damaged in the battle." The Emperor made a decision that shocked everyone in the palace. "Prepare a message for broadcast across the entire empire. I will address the people directly." Admiral Parker established a temporary base in the asteroid field where the battle had taken place. His ships began rescue operations to save Caltharian survivors floating in escape pods. This surprised many people on both sides of the conflict. Commander Sally Brooks supervised the humanitarian efforts. "Admiral, we have rescued over 3,000 enemy personnel. What should we do with them?" "Treat them according to standard military protocols," Parker replied. "Provide medical care and contact their government about prisoner exchanges." The Caltharian survivors could not understand why the humans were helping them. In their culture, defeated enemies were usually enslaved or executed. The concept of mercy toward opponents was completely foreign to them. Captain Morrison brought the Liberty to the human base and met with Admiral Parker in person for the first time. The 2 men sat in Parker's ready room discussing what had happened. "Captain, your first contact report started all of this," Parker said. "How do you feel about the outcome?" Morrison thought carefully before answering. "I wanted to meet aliens and learn about their civilization. I never expected to start a war that would destroy their empire." "You did not start anything, Captain. They attacked your ship first. We just finished what they began." Dr. Helen Brooks had been working with captured Caltharian equipment to improve her understanding of their language. She discovered something important in their historical records. "Admiral, I found references to other species that fought against the Empire in the past," she reported. "Most of them were completely destroyed. The Caltharians do not usually allow defeated enemies to survive." This information helped Parker understand why so many species were declaring independence. The Empire had ruled through fear and violence for thousands of years. Now that fear was gone. On Earth, President Hayes received regular updates about the situation in space. The victory had been complete, but the aftermath was complicated. Ambassador Turner led a team of diplomats preparing for contact with dozens of newly independent governments. "Mr. President, we are receiving communication requests from over 40 different species," Turner reported. "They all want to establish diplomatic relations with humanity." Director Walsh had been analyzing intelligence from the captured Caltharian equipment. "Sir, the Empire controlled over 500 star systems. If it completely collapses, there could be civil wars and refugee crises across half the galaxy." President Hayes realized that winning the war had been easier than managing the peace. "What do you recommend, Ambassador?" "We should convene a galactic conference," Turner replied. "Invite representatives from all the independent worlds to discuss cooperation and mutual defense." The Galactic Council met for the first time in 3,000 years at a space station in neutral territory. Over 60 different species sent delegates to the conference. Admiral Parker represented humanity along with Ambassador Turner. The conference hall was filled with beings of every shape and size imaginable. Some were humanoid like the Zephyrians. Others were completely alien with tentacles, multiple heads, or crystalline bodies. All of them had one thing in common. They had been ruled by the Caltharian Empire. Ambassador Turner stood to address the gathering. "Fellow beings of the galaxy, we meet today because tyranny has finally been defeated. The Caltharian Empire can no longer force its will upon free peoples." A delegate from the Mantari Collective raised a tentacle to speak. "The humans have shown us that the Empire was not invincible. But what happens next? Some of our worlds do not have the military strength to defend themselves." This was the question everyone wanted answered. Many species had been slaves for so long that they did not know how to govern themselves or protect their territory. Admiral Parker had a proposal. "Earth is willing to help establish a mutual defense treaty. Any world that commits to democratic principles and individual rights will receive human military protection." The offer created excitement throughout the hall. Having human warships defend their worlds would guarantee freedom from imperial control. Emperor Zardan watched the Galactic Conference on his private communication system. Representatives from hundreds of his former colonies were discussing their future without him. The empire his ancestors had built was dissolving before his eyes. A message arrived from Admiral Parker requesting a meeting to discuss surrender terms. The human admiral was offering to negotiate rather than simply demanding unconditional surrender. "Prepare my personal transport," Zardan told his guards. "I will meet with these humans face to face." The meeting took place on the neutral space station where the Galactic Council was meeting. Emperor Zardan arrived with a small escort and was escorted to a conference room where Admiral Parker and Ambassador Turner waited. The former emperor was tall and imposing with silver skin and 4 arms like most Caltharians, but his yellow eyes looked tired and defeated. "I am told that human military traditions include honorable treatment of defeated enemies," he said in perfect English. "That is correct, Your Majesty," Parker replied. "We do not seek revenge, only peace." "I am prepared to formally surrender what remains of the Imperial fleet," Zardan said. "In return, I ask that Caltharian civilians be protected from reprisals." Ambassador Turner leaned forward. "We can arrange for human peacekeeping forces to protect civilian populations, but the imperial government must be dissolved and replaced with democratic institutions." The negotiations continued for several days. In the end, the Caltharian Empire officially surrendered and agreed to transition to a republic form of government. The emperor abdicated his throne and retired to a private estate. Captain Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the new Galactic Patrol Fleet. His mission was to explore unknown regions of space and make contact with species beyond the former imperial territory. The UES Liberty became the flagship of this new fleet. Morrison stood on his bridge looking at a mixed crew that included humans, Zephyrians, Mantari, and even some former Caltharian officers who had joined the democratic movement. "Admiral, we are receiving a distress signal from an unknown system," reported Science Officer Davis. "It appears to be coming from outside our galaxy." Morrison smiled. There were still new worlds to explore and new civilizations to meet. "Plot a course to investigate. Let's see what else is out there." The Liberty and its escort fleet jumped to hyperspace heading for the unknown signal. Behind them, the galaxy was free for the first time in 3,000 years. Hundreds of worlds were building democratic governments and learning to cooperate as equals. The age of the Caltharian Empire was over. The age of freedom had begun. On Earth, President Hayes stood in the Rose Garden addressing a crowd of reporters. "Today marks not just humanity's victory in our first interstellar conflict, but the beginning of a new era of peace and cooperation among all sentient beings." Children in schools across Earth learned about the brave crew of the Liberty, who had made first contact with aliens. They learned about Admiral Parker and the fleet that had liberated the galaxy. Most importantly, they learned that strength, without wisdom, leads to tyranny, but strength guided by justice could protect the innocent. The human fleet continued to patrol galactic space. Admiral Zextai stood on the bridge of the Dominion's Wrath, watching his fleet assemble. 320 ships filled the space around the capital world. It was the largest battle fleet in Caltharian history. Massive dreadnoughts floated next to heavy cruisers and fast destroyers. Every ship in the Imperial Navy had been called home for this battle. The flagship was surrounded by the most powerful vessels the Empire had ever built. The Eternal Victory was over 2 kilometers long with plasma cannons that could destroy cities. The Dark Conquest carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The Final Judgment had shields strong enough to survive a star-going nova. Fleet status report, Zextai commanded. Fleet Commander Kelvar consulted his data display. All ships ready for battle, Admiral. We have 48 dreadnoughts, 96 heavy cruisers, and 176 destroyers. Total crew complement is over 2 million personnel. Zextai felt confident for the first time since the alien encounter. No force in the galaxy could stand against such overwhelming power. The human ships might have strange weapons, but they were still just metal and technology. Set course for the alien position, he ordered. We end this threat today. The massive fleet began moving through hyperspace toward human territory. It would take 6 hours to reach the battlefield where Admiral Parker waited with his 50 ships. On the UES Defiance, Admiral Parker watched the sensor readings with concern. Long-range scouts had detected the approaching alien fleet. The numbers were even worse than Captain Morrison had warned. "Sir, I count over 300 enemy vessels," reported Lieutenant Commander Foster. "They have ships much larger than anything we have seen before." Parker studied the tactical display. Some of the alien ships were enormous, easily 3 times the size of his battleships. They probably carried thousands of crew members and massive weapons systems. "What is our ammunition status?" Parker asked. "Each battleship carries 800 kinetic projectiles," Commander Brooks replied. "The cruisers have 400 each. Total ammunition for the fleet is about 30,000 rounds." Parker did quick math in his head. If every shot hit and destroyed an enemy ship, they would still run out of ammunition before defeating the entire alien fleet. This battle would require perfect tactics and a lot of luck. Captain Morrison brought the Liberty closer to the human battle line. His small ship would provide reconnaissance and communication support during the fight. Science Officer Davis had been analyzing the alien fleet composition. "Admiral, the big ships appear to be their dreadnoughts," Davis reported over the communication link. "They have much thicker hulls and more weapons than the patrol ships we fought. Will our kinetic weapons still be effective?" Parker asked. "The physics should be the same, sir. Kinetic energy depends on mass and velocity, not the size of the target. But it might take multiple hits to destroy their largest ships." The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the asteroid field. Admiral Zextai immediately saw the human ships waiting in formation. There were so few of them that he almost laughed. 50 ships against over 300, he said to his bridge crew. These aliens are either very brave or very stupid. The human fleet was arranged in a defensive formation with the battleships in the center and cruisers protecting the flanks. The destroyers formed a screening line in front of the larger ships. It was a textbook formation for fighting. Against superior numbers, Admiral Parker opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. Dr. Brooks had taught him some basic phrases in their language. Caltharian Fleet. This is Admiral Parker of the United Earth Navy. We do not want war with your people. Withdraw your ships and we can discuss peace. Zextai was amazed to hear the alien speaking perfect Caltharian. How had they learned the Imperial language so quickly? It took most species decades to master their complex grammar. Alien Admiral, you have entered Imperial space and destroyed Imperial ships. Surrender immediately and your crews will be treated according to military law. I cannot do that, Parker replied. Withdraw your fleet or we will defend ourselves. Zextai gave the order to attack. All ships advance and engage. Show these aliens the price of defying the Empire. The Caltharian fleet moved forward in 3 massive waves. The first wave consisted of destroyers and light cruisers intended to overwhelm the human screening force. The second wave was heavy cruisers that would attack the enemy battleships. The third wave held the dreadnoughts for the final assault. Admiral Parker watched the enemy formation approach. All ships prepare to engage. Target their lead vessels and fire when they enter range. The human ships had superior sensors that could track targets at longer distances than Caltharian technology allowed. This gave them the first shot advantage in the battle. "Enemy ships in range, sir," reported Foster. "Open fire." 24 human battleships fired simultaneously. Each ship targeted a different enemy vessel. The kinetic projectiles crossed the distance between the fleets in seconds. The results were devastating. 24 Caltharian destroyers and cruisers exploded as the metal slugs punched through their hulls. Debris scattered across space as secondary explosions destroyed engine rooms and weapon systems. On the Dominion's wrath, Admiral Zextai watched his first wave suffer massive casualties before they could even return fire. The alien weapons had incredible range and accuracy. "Return fire immediately," he shouted. The surviving Caltharian ships fired their plasma cannons. Green energy beams lit up space as hundreds of weapons discharged at once. The beams reached the human ships and struck their armored hulls. Nothing happened. The human ships absorbed the energy attacks without taking any visible damage. Their thick metal armor plating distributed the heat across the entire surface. The plasma weapons that had conquered the galaxy were useless against human technology. "Impossible," Zexta yelled. "Fire again! Maximum power!" The second volley was even larger than the first. Over 1,000 plasma cannons fired at the human fleet. The energy discharge was bright enough to be seen from nearby star systems. The human ships continued advancing without slowing down. Their armor showed no signs of damage or heat stress. They began firing again with mechanical precision. Captain Miller commanded the UES Retribution on the left flank of the human formation. His tactical display showed dozens of enemy targets within range. "Lock onto those heavy cruisers," he ordered his weapons officer. "Fire all forward batteries." 6 kinetic projectiles flew toward their targets. Each one found its mark and destroyed a Caltharian cruiser. The alien ships had no defense against weapons that ignored their energy shields. The battle became a massacre. Human ships methodically destroyed enemy vessels while taking no damage in return. The Caltharian fleet's numerical advantage meant nothing when their weapons could not hurt their opponents. Admiral Zextai realized his fleet was being annihilated. In 30 minutes of fighting, he had lost over 100 ships without destroying a single human vessel. His crew was starting to panic. "Sir, the third wave is requesting permission to withdraw," reported Fleet Commander Kelvar. "Denied. All ships continue the attack." But Zextai's orders could not change the reality of the battle. Caltharian ships were exploding faster than his crews could count them. The human formation advanced steadily, destroying everything in their path. Lieutenant Commander Foster coordinated the tactical display on the Defiance. The battle was going better than anyone had hoped. "Sir, we have destroyed 180 enemy ships. Our ammunition expenditure is ahead of projections, but we still have enough for the remaining targets." Admiral Parker nodded grimly. He took no pleasure in the destruction, but his duty was to protect humanity. "Continue firing. Target their largest ships." The human battleships began engaging the Caltharian dreadnoughts. These massive ships required multiple hits to destroy, but they were easier targets because of their size. One by one, the pride of the Imperial Navy was reduced to floating wreckage. Admiral Zextai watched the Eternal Victory explode after taking 5 kinetic hits. The Dark Conquest lost power and began drifting helplessly through space. The final judgment was cut in half by a projectile that went completely through the ship. His own flagship shuddered as a human projectile grazed the hull. The Dominion's Wrath was heavily damaged but still operational. Around him, the bridge crew worked desperately to keep the ship running. "Admiral, we have lost over 200 ships," Kelvar reported. "We must withdraw before the entire fleet is destroyed." Zextai looked at his tactical display. The human ships showed no signs of damage or fatigue. They continued their methodical destruction of his forces with terrifying efficiency. For the first time in 3,000 years, a Caltharian admiral was forced to retreat from battle. "All ships withdraw immediately. Emergency hyperspace jumped to the capital system." The surviving Caltharian vessels fled the battlefield, leaving behind the wreckage of the most powerful fleet they had ever assembled. Admiral Parker ordered his ships to hold position rather than pursue the retreating enemy. The battle of the asteroid field was over. Humanity had won its first interstellar war. President Richard Hayes sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the White House. The room was full of the most important people in Earth's government. Admiral Susan Clark commanded the United Earth Navy. General Kevin Stone led the Colonial Marine Corps. Director Frank Walsh ran Earth Intelligence Service. The quantum message from the Liberty had arrived 6 hours ago. Captain Morrison's report described the first battle with alien forces and the threat of a much larger enemy fleet. Now Earth's leaders had to decide how to respond. "Show me the battle footage again," President Hayes said. Admiral Clark activated the holographic display. The recording showed alien ships firing green energy beams at the Liberty. The beams hit the human ship but caused no damage. Then the Liberty fired back and destroyed 4 alien vessels in seconds. "Our kinetic weapons went right through their energy shields," Admiral Clark explained. "But their plasma cannons could not penetrate our armor plating. We have a significant tactical advantage." General Stone leaned forward in his chair. "How many ships do these Caltharians have?" Director Walsh consulted his datapad. "Intelligence estimates they control over 500 star systems. They could have thousands of warships." The president felt the weight of responsibility. If he made the wrong decision, humanity might face extinction. If he made no decision, the aliens might attack Earth anyway. "What are our military options?" he asked. Admiral Clark stood up and pointed to a star chart on the wall. "I recommend we deploy Task Force Terra. It includes our 6 newest battleships, 12 heavy cruisers, and 30 destroyers. Admiral Parker will command from the UES Defiance." "Is that enough ships to fight an entire galactic empire?" asked the president. "We do not need to fight their entire fleet," General Stone said. "We just need to show them that attacking Earth would be too costly. If we can win one major battle, they might be willing to negotiate." Ambassador Claire Turner had been quiet during the military discussion. She was the head of Earth's diplomatic corps and believed in peaceful solutions. "Mr. President, should we try to establish formal communication with their government?" Director Walsh shook his head. "We intercepted some of their communications. Their language includes concepts like conquest, subjugation, and forced compliance. They do not seem interested in peaceful coexistence." Dr. Patricia Mills was Earth's top expert on alien languages. She had been working on translating Caltharian communications since the first message arrived. "Mr. President, their culture appears to be based on military dominance. They have ruled their territory for thousands of years through force." President Hayes made his decision. "Admiral Clark, deploy Task Force Terra immediately. But I want you to try diplomatic contact first. Show them that we are strong but also reasonable." "Yes, sir," Admiral Clark said. "The fleet will be ready to leave in 72 hours. In space, the UES Defiance led Task Force Terra toward the coordinates where the Liberty waited. Admiral John Parker was a veteran commander with 30 years of experience. He had fought pirates and rebels but never aliens. The Defiance was humanity's most advanced warship. It was 800 meters long with thick armor plating and powerful railguns. The ship carried enough kinetic ammunition to destroy a small moon. Captain Tony Miller commanded the UES Retribution, one of the battleships in the task force. He stood on his bridge watching the starfield ahead. Like all the ship commanders, he had studied the Liberty's battle footage many times. "Admiral Parker seems confident about our weapons," his tactical officer said. "The kinetic advantage is real," Captain Miller replied, "but we do not know how many ships they have. If they send 1,000 ships against our 50, even superior weapons might not be enough." On the UES Defiance, Admiral Parker met with his senior staff to plan their strategy. Commander Sally Brooks was his operations officer. Lieutenant Commander Danny Foster handled tactical planning. Both had experience fighting in the Outer Colony Wars. "The Liberty reports that Caltharian ships are fast and maneuverable," Commander Brooks said. "They prefer to fight in large groups using coordinated attacks." "That works in our favor," said Lieutenant Commander Foster. "Our ships are designed to engage multiple targets simultaneously. Each battleship can track and fire on dozens of enemies at once." Admiral Parker studied the tactical analysis. Human ships were larger and more heavily armed than the alien vessels they had seen. The railguns could fire projectiles accurately at extreme range. If they could force the aliens to fight at a distance, human advantages would be decisive. "What about their energy weapons?" Parker asked. "The Liberty's armor stopped their plasma cannons completely," Foster replied. "Our battleships have 3 times as much armor plating. Their weapons should not be able to hurt us at all." Chief Engineer Maria Santos worked around the clock at Earth's main shipyard. She led the team developing new weapons based on the battle data from the Liberty. Her engineers had designed improved railguns that could fire larger projectiles at higher speeds. "How much more powerful are the new weapons?" asked Admiral Clark during her inspection visit. 30% increase in projectile mass and 20% increase in velocity, Maria replied. The kinetic energy is almost twice as high. These should be able to destroy the largest alien ships with single shots. The new weapons were being installed on all ships in Task Force. Terra, human industrial capacity, allowed rapid production and deployment of improved systems. In just 3 days, the entire fleet had been upgraded. Meanwhile, the Liberty continued its reconnaissance mission in Caltharian space. Captain Morrison kept his ship hidden behind a large asteroid while monitoring alien communications. What they learned was frightening. Science officer Carl Davis had decoded enough of their language to understand military communications. Captain, they are gathering ships from across their entire empire. I count references to over 300 vessels. 300 ships, Captain Morrison said quietly. That is 6 times larger than our entire fleet. Dr. Helen Brooks had made progress translating their strategic communications. Captain, I think their plan is to attack human space directly. They want to find our home worlds and destroy them. Communications Officer Pete Kumar was monitoring their fleet movements. Captain, I am tracking multiple groups of ships moving toward our position. They should arrive in about 10 days. Jake realized that Task Force Terra was flying into a trap. The Caltharians were assembling the largest fleet in their history to destroy the human ships. He had to warn Admiral Parker immediately. The quantum message reached the Defiance just as Task Force Terra entered the edge of Caltharian space. Admiral Parker read Captain Morrison's warning with growing concern. 300 alien ships against 50 human vessels was not good odds. Should we withdraw and wait for reinforcements? Asked Commander Brooks. Admiral Parker thought about his orders from Earth. He was supposed to show the aliens that humanity was strong. Running away would send the wrong message. No, we continue with the mission, he decided. If we can win a battle against overwhelming odds, it will prove that human ships are superior. That might convince them to negotiate instead of attacking Earth. The human fleet moved deeper into enemy territory. Every crew member knew they were outnumbered and far from home. But they also knew their weapons had already proven effective against alien ships. On the Liberty, Captain Morrison prepared his crew for what might be the largest space battle in galactic history. His small exploration ship had started this conflict, and now it might help decide the fate of humanity. All ships report ready for battle, reported Communications Officer Kumar. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the approaching alien fleet. In a few hours, they would learn whether human technology was enough to overcome superior numbers. The future of both species might depend on the outcome of the coming battle. Task Force Terra formed up in battle formation and waited for the enemy to arrive. Admiral Zextai stood in the war room of the Dominion's Wrath staring at the battle footage. The holographic display showed the alien ship taking direct hits from 5 plasma cannons without any damage. Then it showed his patrol ships being destroyed by weapons that seemed impossible. The surviving ship had brought back recordings of everything. Zextai watched the metal projectiles punch through energy shields like they were made of air. In 3,000 years of galactic warfare, nothing like this had ever happened. Chief Intelligence Officer Ratham entered the room carrying data pads. She was an older Caltharian with silver skin and 6 eyes that could see many different types of energy. She had studied alien technology for 50 years. Admiral, I have analyzed the wreckage, she said in a quiet voice. The alien weapons are not energy-based at all. They fire solid metal objects at incredible speed. Zextai turned to look at her. Solid metal? That is impossible. How can metal go through our shields? Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons, Ratham explained. Plasma, lasers, particle beams. We never thought anyone would use kinetic projectiles. The shields let solid objects pass right through. The Admiral felt cold fear in his stomach. How fast were these metal objects moving? Ratham checked her datapad. The computer estimates they were traveling at 30% of light speed. The kinetic energy was enormous. When they hit our ships, the metal turned into plasma from the impact. Zextai sat down heavily in his command chair. His people had built their entire military around energy shields and energy weapons. Every ship in the Imperial fleet used the same basic design. If the aliens could make weapons that ignored shields, the Empire was in terrible danger. What do we know about their ship construction? He asked. The alien vessel appears to be built differently than our ships, Ratham said. Instead of energy shields, they use thick metal armor. Our plasma weapons heat up their hull but cannot penetrate it. The metal seems to absorb and spread the energy across the entire surface. Far away, the UES Liberty continued its journey through space. Captain Morrison had ordered the ship to stay in the area and learn more about the aliens before returning to Earth. Science. Officer Carl Davis worked day and night studying the sensor readings they had collected. Carl was a young man with curly brown hair who loved learning about new things. He had found evidence of a huge civilization spread across many star systems. There were space stations, communication networks, and shipping routes everywhere. "Captain, come look at this," Carl called from his station. Jake walked over to see what Carl had discovered. The main screen showed a map of local space with hundreds of energy signatures marked in red. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked. "Those are all artificial structures, Captain. Space stations, orbital platforms, mining facilities. This civilization is enormous. They must control dozens of star systems." Navigator Amy Walsh had been listening to their conversation. "Captain, if they are that big, they probably have a huge military. The ships we fought might just be a small patrol." Jake felt worried. The Liberty was just one ship with 200 people. If these aliens decided to attack Earth, humanity might not be able to stop them. Dr. Helen Brooks was working on translating more alien communications they had intercepted. She was a smart woman with gray hair who had spent her life studying languages. She had made progress understanding their basic words. "Captain, I think I know what they call themselves," she said. "They seem to be the Caltharian Empire. From what I can translate, they rule this entire region of space." Communications Officer Pete Kumar had been recording alien radio signals. "Dr. Brooks, I think you should listen to this. I recorded some military communications after our battle." Helen listened to the alien voices and worked on translating them. Her face grew pale as she understood more of what they were saying. "Captain, they are planning something big. I hear words that mean fleet, destroy, and alien threat. I think they are gathering ships to attack us." Back in Caltharian space, Admiral Zextai had called a meeting of all his senior officers. Fleet Commander Kelvar was there along with Chief Weapons Designer Mortak and Strategic Planning Officer Yextal. They sat around a large table looking at holographic displays of the alien ship. "Gentlemen, we face a new type of threat," Zextai began. "These aliens use weapons we have never encountered. Our shields cannot stop them and our weapons cannot hurt them." Fleet Commander Kelvar was a warrior who had fought in many battles.
He was not afraid of any enemy.
"Admiral, we should gather our entire fleet and destroy these aliens before they can bring more ships." "That may not be wise," said Strategic Planning Officer Yextal. He was an older Caltharian who thought carefully about military problems. "We know nothing about their numbers or capabilities." "What if they have many ships like this one?" Chief Weapons Designer Mortak had been studying the alien technology. "The metal projectiles show signs of mass production. Look at these markings. They are identical on all the recovered fragments. This suggests large-scale manufacturing capability." Admiral Zextai studied the data. If the aliens could mass-produce these weapons, they might have many ships armed with them. The Empire had never faced an enemy with industrial capacity to match their own. "Intelligence Officer Ratham, what is your assessment?" he asked. Ratham stood up and activated a holographic display. "Admiral, I believe these aliens represent an existential threat to the Empire. Their kinetic weapons are devastatingly effective against our ship designs. If they have a large fleet, they could defeat us in battle." The room was quiet as everyone thought about this. The Caltharian Empire had never lost a major battle. Their technology and tactics had made them masters of the galaxy. Now they faced an enemy that made their advantages useless. "There is something else," Ratham continued. "The alien ship was clearly built for long-range travel. It has massive fuel tanks and supply storage. This suggests they come from very far away, possibly outside our region of the galaxy." Fleet Commander Kelvar looked confused. "What does that mean?" "It means their home territory is unknown to us. We do not know where they come from or how many worlds they control. We cannot plan an attack on their home systems because we do not know where they are." Admiral Zextai felt the weight of command on his shoulders. He had to make a decision that could determine the fate of the Empire. If he attacked the aliens and lost, other species might rebel against Caltharian rule. If he did nothing, the aliens might attack Imperial worlds. "Send messages to all Imperial fleets," he decided. "I want every available ship recalled to the capital system. We will assemble the largest battle fleet in our history." "How many ships, Admiral?" asked Fleet Commander Kelvar. "All of them." Every battleship, cruiser, and destroyer we have. If these aliens want a war, we will show them the full power of the Caltharian Empire. The officers left to carry out their orders. Soon, messages were being sent across the galaxy calling Imperial ships home. Hundreds of vessels began moving toward the capital system. On the Liberty, Captain Morrison received a priority message from Earth through the quantum communication system. He read it in his private cabin, then called his senior officers to a meeting. Earth Command has reviewed our reports, he told them. They are sending the first fleet to our position. Admiral Parker is coming with 6 battleships and 12 cruisers. Chief Engineer Roberts looked surprised. That is almost our entire deep space fleet, Captain. Earth Command thinks these Caltharians might try to attack our home system. The President has authorized full military mobilization. Jake looked at his crew. They were explorers and scientists, not soldiers. But they had stumbled into a situation that might lead to the first interstellar war in human history. Our orders are to stay here and monitor Caltharian activity until the fleet arrives, Jake said. We need to learn everything we can about their capabilities. The Liberty continued its secret mission, recording alien communications and mapping their territory. Both sides were preparing for a conflict that would change the galaxy forever. The Caltharian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their ships were fast and their weapons were strong. Admiral Zextai stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the stars. The Dominion's Wrath was the biggest ship in the 5th Imperial Fleet. It had never lost a battle. The bridge was dark and cold like all Caltharian ships. Zextai was tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His yellow eyes glowed as he read the reports. The Empire controlled 500 worlds and billions of people. No one had ever challenged their power. A young officer ran up to him with a data pad. Admiral, we found something strange at the edge of our space, the officer said. His voice was shaking. Zextai took the pad and looked at the readings. There was a ship out there that did not match any design in their files. It was moving slowly toward their territory. The energy readings were weak and the hull looked basic. Send a patrol to check it out, Zextai said. He gave the pad back to the officer. Tell them to follow standard rules. If the aliens do not surrender, destroy them. Far away in space, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty. He was a man in his 40s with brown hair and calm blue eyes. The Liberty was humanity's first ship built for long trips between the stars. It had taken 18 months to get this far from Earth. Any word from the alien signals yet? Jake asked his crew. Chief Engineer Lisa Roberts looked up from her console. She was a smart woman with red hair tied back in a ponytail. The signals are getting stronger, Captain. I think we are close to whoever sent them. Jake nodded and walked to the main screen. The Liberty carried 200 people on this mission. They were scientists, engineers, and explorers. All of them wanted to meet other life in the universe. Tactical Officer Ben Carter was a young man with short black hair. He had been watching the sensor readings all day. Captain, I am picking up something on long range. It looks like ships heading our way. Jake felt excited. This might be their first real contact with aliens. How many ships, Ben? 5 ships, Captain. They are moving fast and they look like warships. Navigator Amy Walsh was a woman in her 30s with blonde hair. She had been plotting their course for months. Should we change direction, Captain? Jake thought for a moment. They had come too far to run away now. No, Amy. We came here to meet aliens. Let's see what they want. The Caltharian patrol ships reached the Liberty after 2 hours. Commander Veltok led the 5 ships. He was a veteran warrior who had fought many battles for the Empire. When he saw the alien ship, he laughed. Look at that thing, he said to his crew. It looks like a piece of space junk. The hull is just basic metal, and I do not see any shield generators. The alien ship was long and gray with strange markings on the side. It had big engines at the back, but they did not look very advanced. There were no energy weapons visible and no armor plating. Veltok opened a channel to the alien ship. Unknown vessel, you have entered Caltharian space without permission. Surrender now or be destroyed. On the Liberty, Communications Officer Pete Kumar was trying to understand the alien message. He was a thin man with dark skin who spoke 6 Earth languages. Captain, I think they want us to surrender. Can you translate our response? Jake asked. I am trying, Captain, but their language is very different from anything we know. Jake made a decision. He would try to show the aliens that humans were peaceful. Pete, send them this message. Tell them we come in peace and want to talk. Pete worked on the translation and sent the message. On the Caltharian ships, the crew laughed when they heard it. They want to talk. Veltuk said with a grin. These aliens think they can negotiate with the Empire. Open fire on their engines. We will take them prisoner. The 5 Caltharian ships fired their plasma cannons at the Liberty. Bright green energy beams hit the human ship's hull. The Caltharians expected to see explosions and damage. Instead, nothing happened. The Liberty's hull absorbed the energy blasts like they were nothing. Not even a scratch appeared on the metal surface. The energy readings barely changed. On the Liberty, Chief Engineer Roberts looked at her readings with surprise. Captain, they just hit us with some kind of energy weapons. Our hull absorbed all the energy. No damage at all, Jake was amazed. The Liberty's armor was designed to stop space rocks and radiation. He never thought it would work so well against alien weapons. Commander Veltuk stared at his screens in shock. Fire again! Full power this time! All 5 ships fired together. The space around the Liberty lit up with green energy. The beams hit the human ship over and over but still did no damage. Impossible, Veltuk whispered. Our weapons always work, always. Jake realized the aliens thought they were enemies now. He had to protect his crew. Ben, can our weapons reach their ships? Tactical Officer Carter checked his systems. The Liberty had kinetic weapons that fired metal slugs at very high speed. They were designed to destroy space rocks that might hit the ship. Yes, Captain. The railguns are ready. Jake did not want to fight, but the aliens kept shooting at them. Fire one shot, Ben. Try not to hurt them too much. Carter targeted the lead alien ship and fired one metal slug. The projectile was small, but it moved faster than anything the Caltharians had ever seen. The slug hit Veltuk's ship and went right through the energy shield like it was not there. It punched through the hull and exploded inside the ship. Half the vessel was destroyed in seconds. The other Caltharian crews watched in terror as their commander's ship broke apart. They had never seen weapons that could go through their shields. Retreat, one of them shouted. Get us out of here. But Jake was not finished. The aliens had attacked his ship and his people. Ben Carter fired 3 more times. 3 more alien ships exploded as the metal slugs tore them apart. Only one Caltharian ship escaped. It ran away as fast as it could, carrying news of the impossible battle back to the Empire. On the Liberty, Jake looked at the wreckage floating in space. He felt sad that people had died, but his crew was safe. This was not how he wanted first contact to go. Amy, plot a course away from here, he said. We need to get back to Earth and report what happened. Dr. Helen Brooks, the ship's scientist, was already studying the alien wreckage. Captain, I am picking up some interesting readings. These aliens have very advanced technology in some ways, but their weapons seem limited to energy-based systems. Jake nodded. The aliens had powerful shields and fast ships, but their weapons could not hurt human armor. It was a strange thing to learn about their first alien contact. The Liberty turned away from the battle site and headed back toward human space. Behind them, pieces of alien ships drifted in the darkness. The first meeting between humans and aliens was over, but Jake knew it was just the beginning of something much bigger.